Well, it's a different type of Jolly Good News report. This is a special Jolly Good News report as we get ready for the jolly time of year. 'Tis the season to be jolly. All right. So since it's this once a year that I dress differently for this show, I decided to go all in and say, hello, welcome to the Jolly Good News report for this week as we go into Christmas week. And I want to also say hello to everybody who has celebrated Hanukkah, those who are going to be celebrating Kwanzaa, and all the holidays. But as we celebrate Christmas, I wanted to take a moment to do a different type of show, or just to speak to you on some different good news things as we have this celebration. Now, every week I ask you to do a couple things for me. I ask you if you would simply start a watch party. Start a watch party for me, and let's get that going first, because we want you to let everybody know. I've got some good things for you today, some exciting things for you today that will help you to grow and go to the next level. So I want you to start a watch party and like it and share it. And then I want you to know about my XM show. I always take a moment to tell you about what's coming up today on Sirius XM at 4 o'clock today on channel 141. I'm launching a show that is another special show. It's my hiatus winter break show for XM, where it will re-air over the next few weeks because Christmas is on Friday and then Saturday. People will still be celebrating. And so we're going to re-air that same show a couple times, a couple weeks. And it's a show that talks about looking back over this traumatic, challenging, difficult year and what good news we got out of the great guest that I got on my XM show over the last year. Some tremendous guests were on my show. I had some of the best and the brightest thought leaders all over the world. If you're on my newsletter, you would have received my newsletter this week with some of those guests, and they were just fantastic, literally fantastic guests on my show. Some of the greatest, the best, the brightest, the most incredible people who have been anywhere have just been such a blessing to me that I thought they would be a blessing to you as well. We had this year a lot of guests. We had a show about B. Smith, my dear friend B. Smith, who passed away at the beginning of the year. God bless her spirit and God bless her soul. But I had recorded a show with her and her husband, Dan Gatsby, maybe 10 years ago. And it was classic. And she and Dan were full of life, full of love, full of business, making money, had the 3 restaurants. She was on television. She was doing a Today Show. She was considered the Black Martha Stewart, just doing all sorts of things. But they had built this together. And they said, you must make the decision to be the producer, the director, the writer, and actor in your own movie that you create in your mind. I love that quote, that you must be a committed person to being the producer, the director, the writer, and actor of your own movie that you created in your mind. So why didn't you dream big about the movie for your life? They said that great partnerships are not about ego, but about how we go. We go together, and we can go further together. They said if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And they talked about their relationship and how they understood the impact and the power of lust and trust. They said lust without trust will be a bust. And trust without lust is like dating your relative. It will turn to dust. Have both in a great relationship. I love that. Then I had also Marshall Goldsmith, the #1 business coach in America, was on my show this year. And Marshall Goldsmith said, you must be optimistic and realistic in a time of a pandemic. You got to be realistic. This is a pandemic. Don't ignore it and act like it's not there. But also optimistic. So you don't fixate on what you cannot change. As Maya Angelou said, if there's something in your life you don't like, change it. But if you cannot change it, change your attitude. So Marshall talked about that, as well as the fact that you can be excited about the things in the future that you can impact and you can create. I also had on this year Alfred Edmond, Senior Vice President of Black Enterprise. And he said well, first of all, he's one of the great experts on wealth building in America. And he's had relationships and interviews and worked with all of the great African-American millionaires and billionaires over the years who've been spotlit on programs and stories from Black enterprise. He said that you must make it important to be wealthy because wealth gives you options and impacts your legacy. And understand that wealth is always measured in the assets you own. He said you will know that it's an asset when you can put that item in your will and leave it for your kids. And it can continue to grow as time goes on. So it is important that you make it important to be wealthy and then understand what wealth is. We also had my friend Barbara Glantz, who is a Hall of Fame speaker. She is a tremendous human resource expert. And here's what was so profound about her. She's a best-selling author, but she started her speaking business, her publishing business, all of that at the age of 50. She said, don't let age limit you. Use all your gifts, because everybody has gifts, and use them all the way, and age doesn't make a difference unless you allow it to make a difference. Ooh, I love it. And she said, you must learn to network. And if networking does not come natural, do it at your own pace. If it's uncomfortable, do it at your own pace. My wife's an introvert, and networking is challenging for her. She likes to use the analogy that an introvert and an extrovert both would have the same amount of, let's say, beans at the beginning of the day. But introverts, as they go through the day and they have to talk to people or network with people, they have to give up a bean because it's uncomfortable. So they give out a bean because it takes energy from them. Versus a extrovert like myself, who every time I talk to somebody or I'm around a crowd, I get more beans. I'm excited about it. I want to talk to people. I'm on the phone. I'm networking with people. I'm going to networking events. And when she's out of beans, those beans, she's like, whew. So Barbara said, if it's uncomfortable, do it at your own pace, but just continue to grow your network, because your network will determine your net worth. Love that. Then we had Melinda Emerson, who's the #1 small business expert in America. They call her the small business lady. She said life can be challenging and business can be challenging. So realize that every kick in the butt can be a boost in your business. I love that. A kick in the butt can be a boost in your business. You must learn from it and grow from it. And to effectively grow your business, you must first commit to growing yourself. I love that concept. It's in some of my books. The best way to grow your future is grow yourself. The best way to grow your organization, grow your people. I've written about that, but I like the way she said every kick in the butt can be a boost in your business. She said she started her business with a phone and a fax machine. That was it. A dream and a fax machine. And that was it. But she built it. Steve Case was a guest this year. He was on my show with David Hall. They have created Revolution LLC, where they are venture capitalists for minority businesses to try and put millions of dollars into minority businesses. For those who don't know who Steve Case is, he's the founder of AOL. He's a multi-billionaire, and yet he wants to help grow enterprise and entrepreneurs. So they've started this program to help entrepreneurs to grow. He said, always think of yourself as a startup. The internet is an infant, so you must continue to think about the next wave. Where is it going to be? He said there were 3 waves in the internet thus far. He said the first wave was just to get people online. That's what AOL did, just to get you online. Now, unfortunately, the first wave, there wasn't a lot of traffic. Maybe one person, you'd find one person who had an internet connection. And it was expensive. It was like $10 an hour. But then it moved from there to the second wave where prices went down and everybody was starting to get access to internet, and you had more and more communication with more and more people. But we're now in the third wave where it's not just something we do occasionally or as a novelty. It's part of our daily life. We are now in the third wave where we cannot live without the internet. Internet goes down, we go crazy. Folks go crazy. The internet's down. Our television comes through internet. The phones, many phones are on internet. Computers on internet. Everything now is starting to be on internet. Your house is internet friendly. Lights come on and go off. And yet, with all that's going on, it's still an infant. We have yet to see where the internet's going to go. So what we should be doing, as Steve K says, is thinking not where the puck is, as Wayne Gretzky said, but where it's going to be going. Janice Stanfield, iconic songwriter, speaker, has written songs for many of the great country artists. Just a phenomenal lady who is also a philanthropist. Janice said, you must decide what you don't want to do with your life. If you do not decide for your life, then life will and fate will decide for you. And you very well might not like what fate decides for you. Decide what you want to do. And then she has a quote that I added to my wall, if you can see my wall of quotes. We cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good we can do. That's the truth. I love that. Be a philanthropist. Make a difference, even if it's small. Do something good for somebody. A philanthropist, a friend of man. Philanthropist. Philios, friend of man. Philanthropist. Be a friend of man. Help somebody else. Then we had Dr. Bernie Siegel, world-renowned health expert. He said, journal. Start journaling. I journal, have been for years. And find something every day to be grateful for and something you learned about that day. We learn every day. I know I do. I learn something new every day. And I write it down. And then I write what I'm grateful for. And then I write what happened that day. What experiences, what calls, what people I had experiences with. I get something from so many people, so many ways. He said, learn to be a love warrior. A love warrior. And say to people who are driving you crazy that I love you. There's nothing they can do about it. Nothing they can do. And the Bible even talks about that. That said, rather than returning hate for hate, return hate with love. And it's like pouring hot coals on somebody's head. That's what the Bible says. So don't return evil for evil. Do good. Bless people. Jesus said, if they make you go a mile, go the extra mile with them. They make you take off your cloak, your sweater, give them your cloak as well. And then he said, learn to leave your troubles to God. Don't dwell on it. He said, cast your cares upon me. Well, do it. Go ahead and do it. Why you got it? He said, I got it. Why you want to keep it? Cast them on him. He said, I got you. And understand that hope exists. Give hope a shot. It works. Hope works. Hope is important. Hope is necessary. Hope is not a good business strategy. You've heard that. But hope is a great business fuel for the journey. You need hope to give you power. Les Brown says it like this. Hope in the future gives you power in the present. There's some good stuff in it. I know it is good stuff I'm giving to you today on this special edition. For those who are just joining, special edition of the Jolly Good News Report. Merry Christmas. 'Tis the season to be jolly. That's right. Then we had DJ the Money Coach, who is one of the leading money experts for middle class people, because the high end people, the high net worth people have financial advisors to help them. But what about the middle class people? Many of them don't have the resources, don't have the tools, don't have the access. So he said, it really is not about how much you make, but how much you keep. And you don't have to be a born business person to learn about business, because it's something that is teachable. And if you're willing to just take time to learn. My wife is a great example. My wife is a business expert now. She's a financial guru. It really is. Now, she didn't start that way, but she made a commitment to study. She studies daily on financial situation, financial literacy, on investing, on maximizing money and how to make it work for you. She is amazing. And many of the financial experts on television, when they'll be talking, she'll say, this is what you should do. And she says it before they say what somebody should do. Or she'll listen to the question people, oh, they should do such and such and such. And the person, this financial expert, everybody buys their book, says the exact same thing right after Dia said it. And that's because she has committed to learn about financial literacy and take time. Listen to podcasts. She listens to podcasts. Every day she listens to podcasts. She reads every evening. Sam Richter was on my show just recently. Sam Richter's Hall of Fame speaker. Just a brilliant man. Oh, I love his thinking. He said he's an introvert, so he just learned how to use the internet to make his job of networking easier. And he knows that if you understand psychology, that psychology says that the sweetest name a person knows is their own name. Don't call them out of their name. Don't call them the wrong name. If your name is William and somebody called you Wilbur, you'd be, whoa, that's not my name. Well, the sweetest name somebody knows is their own name. They like hearing their own name and in the way that they were taught to pronounce it. And the more you know about a person, their interests, their concerns, their loves, their passions. Maybe they're passionate for raising money for sick kids or whatever it is. The more you know that, and that's learnable on the internet. He gives ways to learn about people who you're going to do business with so you can have more rapport. He said, great salespeople understand it is more important to be interested in that other person than to be just interesting as a person yourself. And he says selling is sharing. It is best to know people better to get them comfortable with you. Also this season, we had W. Mitchell, the great iconic Hall of Fame speaker, overcomer. Anthony Robbins calls him the most inspirational man he's ever met. Zig Ziglar would talk about him. Les Brown. I have talked about him in every one of my books. W. Mitchell, the man who would not give up, who would turn a setback into a comeback. You know, this book, A Setback is a Setup for a Comeback. We've had a rush on this book the last couple months. People have been buying this book like crazy. People are buying it in bulk. We had people buy multiple copies of this book. And they say, we want to turn this setback, this coronavirus pandemic setback into a comeback. We want the principles. We've heard about your books. We've heard about people who've used them to transform their lives. So people are buying it in massive number. If you want to get a copy, just go to, winwithwillie.com. We have a page there. Oh, I almost forgot. Christmas, we have a special discount, Christmas gifts. You can get it physically or digitally at a special price. If you go to winwithwillie.com, winwithwillie.com, you can get it. I almost forgot to tell you. Let me read about W. Mitchell. W. Mitchell is a man who exemplifies turning setbacks into setups for comebacks. He is respectfully called the man who would not be defeated because he never gives up. Many years ago, he was a student who worked part-time at a cable operator in San Francisco. Between school and work, he found time to ride his new motorcycle for recreation. He lived for a time where he could get out on the bike and feel the refreshing wind blow on his face. One day while taking a ride, he was crossing an intersection and suddenly saw a truck running a red light. The truck slammed into him and he was slammed to the ground. As he lay there in agony, he smelled gasoline, and realized he was covered with it. Suddenly there was an explosion and the bike went up in flames, and then the fire spread and soon engulfed him. He became a human torch and was completely burned from head to toe. He lost his fingers, his toes, and was left with no resemblance of his former self. He went through months and months of agonizing surgery and rehabilitation. He had a setback, but he had made a decision. He would not give up. It was just a setup for a comeback. He finished the rehabilitation and finished his education, went back to school, and went on to start a business that soon became very successful. He was so successful he was able to purchase a private plane, and he piloted the plane. His plane became his passion. He spent all of his spare time flying. One evening while in flight, the plane started experiencing engine problems. He attempted to land but lost control and crashed. When he awoke, after months in a coma, he found that now he had been paralyzed from the waist down. He sat and looked at himself and saw a burned man who was now also a paraplegic and forced to live the rest of his life in a wheelchair. He had had a setback, but he said it was just a setup for a comeback, and he decided to not give up. He started saying, "You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control what you do about it." He continued to fight for his dreams, continued to make a difference. He's gone on to become one of the top motivational speakers in the world. He became the mayor of his small town in Colorado. He owns homes in Colorado, California, Hawaii. He lives life to the fullest. He lives the life that we talk about. It is not what happens to you that counts. It's what you do about it. I love that interview with W. Mitchell. We also had my friend, the one and only founder of Worldwide Technologies, Dave Stewart, who is the CEO of the #1 largest African-American company in America. He told me this year they did $13 billion. Dave said on the interview that the secret to his success is his faith in God and his willingness to use godly principles to build a business. He said he won't steal, he won't cheat, he won't make money his God. And it comes in droves because he serves others, he serves his clients. I just love this interview. You got to hear that interview. And we are grateful for all of the guests we had this year. Amy Griffin, helping people to establish their estates, not just for their children, but helping people like Dee and I to establish their estate plan for 100 years from now. So 100 years from now, some child will walk into a room, see a picture of Dee and I, run up to her and kiss her and say, "Thank you, great, 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 great granddaddy, great, 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 great grandmama, for what you did to allow us to have a home, a business, an education." She allowed us to create an estate plan that would not only outlive us, but outlive our children, outlive our children's children, and our children's children's children. I've never seen anything like it. We had some great guests. Now, you can get access to all of my guests all this year on my podcast. Absolutely free. Just go to your favorite podcast distributor, whether it's iHeartRadio, C-Suite Radio, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, and look for the Willie Jolley Wealthy Ways podcast. Subscribe to it, and you'll get access to the podcast. We got hundreds of podcasts. Damon John, Colin Powell, Bob Johnson, Gladys Knight, one after another. Just great podcasts that will bless you and encourage you and inspire you. So, as we celebrate this wonderful Christmas spirit, Christmas time, I want to make sure we let you know that every week I tell you about some good news. But we got good news. Yeah, we got good news. Here's the good news for this week. That one, the vaccine is here. The first. The second should be here next week. And so we're excited about that. And we're excited that people are realizing that this can be beaten. There's a vaccine that can help to beat this terrible pandemic. And yet, out of this pandemic, people have spent more time with their families because they've been shut down and locked down. People have created new opportunities, new businesses. I'm writing a new book. I learned to cook. I had never learned to cook. I was always busy. I couldn't take time to cook. I learned to cook. And here's some good news that, every week I give you a statistic. I don't tell you how many people got infected or how many people died. I simply tell you how many people are home with their families as we go this week into the Christmas holiday time. Almost 550 million people are home with their families. Wow. 50,500,000 people were last week, and now it's 55 million people are home with their families. 55 million. That's fantastic. And we want more and more to beat it. And we're going to keep praying for people to beat it and to grow from it. So I'm excited about this Christmas time. It's going to be different this year for us. We usually have a big family celebration, a big family dinner. This year going to be dinner like it was for Thanksgiving, but it's all good. We'll do a Zoom with our family members because we're not going to take the chance. It's so close. We're so close. We're not going to take the chance to get an infection and not, if we were to even infect others. We've been in a bubble, so we've been negative every time we've tested. But we don't want to take any chances because this too will pass. And we'll get past this. And we'll get through this. Go to winwithwillie.com to see the song. If you haven't seen, We'll Get Through This. I want to thank my friend Phil Sarantino, who sent me an email this week and said, what a great song. It has blessed me. I shared it with all my family and friends. We'll get through this. If you haven't seen it, go to winwithwillie.com or just look it up on YouTube. We'll Get Through This with Dr. Willie Jolley. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for support. I want to thank you for sharing this Jolly Good News Report with your friends and family members. Keep doing that, please. Have a great day today. God bless you tomorrow. Go to church somewhere. And if you're an Adventist and you worship today, watch this tomorrow and then share it with your friends. We just give God glory. Or whatever day you worship, we thank God for life and strength and health. And we hope you have a Merry Christmas, a tremendous Christmas. And remember, Jesus is the reason for the season. As Zig Ziglar asked me to share, don't let them forget that Jesus is the reason. I promised I would. Have a great day, a great week, a great Christmas. And I look forward to seeing you soon on the Jolly Good News Report. This is Dr. Willie Jolley. God bless you.